Mozart is a genius. We all know that. No? And if you don't, you're not paying attention.
Are we going to appall you with something confidential and disgusting? Let's hope so, because that is what you really like. Unconfessed crimes of buried wickedness. If that is what brings you to us, the prospect of hearing horrors, you shall not go unrewarded.
Hi guys, welcome to Keepin' It Real. I'm Ryan, and today I'm going to be discussing one of my favorite movies, Amadeus.
Yes, she was. I don't know where they met or how. There she stood, on stage for all to see, showing off like the greedy songbird she was.
Amadeus was released in 1984 and is directed by Milos Forman, stars Tom Hulce as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and F. Murray Abraham as his professional rival Antonio Salieri.
Go on. Mock me. Laugh. That was not Mozart laughing, Father. That was God. That was God laughing at me through that obscene giggle.
It was God!
The film opens to set the scene in the early 1800s. Antonio Salieri at this point is an older man, and this older man has just attempted suicide by cutting his own throat. He is immediately rushed to a hospital that appears to be for the mentally insane, at which time a priest visits him in order for him to offer his confession, and this, my friends, is how we are treated to the story of Mozart, as told by Antonio Salieri, his rival, in flashback form. In the present of this movie, he's sitting talking to this priest, but we get to see exactly what Salieri experienced from the moment he became a composer in Vienna and became aware of Mozart's existence in general.
Is talent like that written on the face? Which one of them could he be?
This movie is a work of historical fiction based on the rumored rivalry between Antonio Salieri and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, that in real life was quite professional, but in this film is played out to be deadly, as was first rumored in Alexander Pushkin's play Mozart and Salieri, which was later adapted into the longer Amadeus by Peter Shaffer, of which this film is directly based. Mozart comes off like a child, similar to how Michael Jackson clung to childhood in his adult years. He is foul-mouthed and physical. He has an irritable laugh. Mozart is played out as being a walking contradiction of his own music. Somebody else said that and said it better, but that is true.
Forgive me, Majesty. I'm a vulgar man, but I assure you my music is not.
You are passionate, Mozart, but you do not persuade.
This movie is perfect. It is. Okay, it's not perfect. There's two things wrong with it, actually. Two. Number one, the first thing wrong with this movie is all of the main characters speak English as their primary language. But that's how movies work. Sorry.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
So you have to get around the fact that they speak English. That's the first thing. The second thing that's wrong with this movie is that the rivalry between Antonio Salieri and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was not as, quote, deadly as this movie would make you think.
Watch it, Jack. He killed Mozart!
It was much more of a professional rivalry, whereas this movie makes it play out as if they are literally sabotaging each other. Mozart unintentionally, whereas Salieri was doing this much more intentionally, but because of Mozart's childlike demeanor, Salieri was able to get away with it. That's how he was able to manipulate him, because Mozart was not aware. I keep saying Mozart, and that's fucking annoying, isn't that? Oh, God. Mozart was childlike, and Antonio Salieri took advantage of that.
Where did I stop?
Tempo di ricordare. Sta tu in parte
So,
next.
now, confutatus maledictus, confounded, flamis acrobus addictus. How would you translate that?
Consigned to flames of woe.
Do you believe in it?
What?
Fire which never dies, burning you forever.
This movie is perfect. The costumes, oh my god. The hair pieces, makeup, the set design. The acting speaks for itself. It's out of this world. The acting is amazing. F. Murray Abraham won Best Actor, but don't forget, Tom Hulce was also nominated for Best Actor for this movie. They were nominated the same year in the same category. F. Murray Abraham won. The directing of this movie is absolutely fantastic. Everything has a purpose. Everything has its place. The music is obviously fantastic. I'm pretty confident that the entire soundtrack is made up of classical works of that era. Or at least that were popular during that era.
You must know this.
I can't say that I do. What is it?
It was a very popular tune in its day.
Fun fact about this movie: Alexander Hamilton and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart were born right around the same time. And the reason I say right around the same time without the assurance is that Alexander Hamilton's birth year is actually up for debate. It's either 1755 or 1757. Mozart was born in 1756, right in the middle of where that debate is. So they were born right around the same time. So if you're a fan of Hamilton, which I am, loved it, it is very interesting to also watch this movie and know that this was going on at the exact same time. When America received their independence in 1776, Mozart was 20 years old. We think of Mozart in the classical music era as being so much older than that for some reason. And yet, the timeline of Hamilton and the timeline of the movie Amadeus exist almost simultaneously. Hamilton goes a little further. There's a really great technique that this movie uses where often the main characters will be reading sheet music and we as the audience can hear the music playing out as they're hearing it in their head. Oh my gosh, that is such a cool effect. It's really, really neat. It first happens when Salieri first becomes aware of Mozart and is at the same party as him and stumbles upon his sheet music and is reading it.
On the page, it looked nothing. The beginning simple, almost comic. Just a pulse. Bassoons, basset horns. Like a rusty squeeze box. It seemed to me that I was hearing the voice of God. Excuse me.
Suddenly, it's ripped out of his hands by Mozart, who storms out of there in this scene. But this technique is used later in the film as well, multiple times. For instance, as Salieri is reading the sheet music, but most importantly, I'm going to talk about the finale of the movie. This movie came out in 1984, okay? So I'm going to talk about the finale of this film.
In fact, this is the end of the movie.
There's a scene which is considered the climax of the film, where Mozart is on his deathbed, literally the bed he dies in, and he is yet to finish this Requiem, and Salieri pushes him, and is pushing him, and there's a scene where they're writing it, and Mozart is telling Salieri, this is what I want you to write, and Salieri at times is having trouble, but ultimately is writing down what Mozart is saying.
Soprano's up to F on the second vocal?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And on dictus.
Yes.
And underneath, just violins, arpeggios. Descending scale in eighth notes, and then back to the ostinato again, and that's it. Do you have it?
You go too fast.
Do you have it?
Go too fast. One moment, please. One moment.
All the while, he's picturing in his head, and we can hear the different levels, the violin, the strings. We can hear the piano. We can hear various different instruments being inserted, and then, alas, it's passed over to Mozart. He looks at it, and it all comes together.
Show me the whole thing from the beginning.
Ah. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot, it's beautifully edited, the sound design is awesome, acting. The way this movie just all comes together is fantastic. It really is. This is what I call a perfect movie. I know I mentioned that there's two mistakes. Well, not mistakes, there's two things you have to get around with this movie. The English and the plot. That being said, this movie is perfect. It's perfectly executed. There's really not one bad thing about this movie. I could see how some would find his laugh annoying. I don't. I think it's great. I think it's super fun. Reminds me of a friend of mine. You know who you are. I'm trying to think of something else that's a negative to this movie. I really can't think of a bad thing to say about this movie.
It was clear to me. That sound I had heard in the Archbishop's palace had been no accident. Here again was the very voice of God. I was staring through the cage of those meticulous ink strokes at an absolute beauty.
I think Amadeus is a perfect movie, which is why, by default, I have to give it a 100 out of 100. You get hit in all the feels. I like that. I've liked this movie ever since I was a kid. Reviews are supposed to be objective for the most part, and I hope that they are. But there's a reason that I started with a couple of movies that I consider to be my favorites. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this movie or the other movies that I'm reviewing first. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Keeping It Real. I'm Ryan. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next video.